What's up, people? We're back one more time. We're going to give this one more shot. I think we're going to just go ahead and Nick's showing anything from the Apple event and just kind of give our live reactions. I got Fat Man Zoom listening in right now, and just the iPhone 13 is being displayed right now. So we'll get into some of our reactions to that, but right now the stock as we speak is still just kind of sitting around a 0.5%. For those of you who are just joining us and just tuning in, we're live again, trying to give our reactions to this Apple event. But if you're visiting for the first time, welcome. My name is Brad. That is Fat Man Zoom. The stock market is crazy and chaotic. We made it our mission to help you guys own it, and that's why we call this channel "Own the Chaos." So right now, Fat Man Zoom, any highlights from the show?
I don't think anything surprising. I mean, it's faster. It's a little bit better features. They talked about their chip and how it's light years ahead of everybody else. All that stuff's great. Maybe not enough to move the needle. I don't know what the stock is currently doing right now. I'm sure it's doing a little bit better given people were waiting the iPhone. But as far as like this stock going off, nothing that would surprise anybody.
Yeah. Right now, looking at the stock, it's down around 0.5% on the day. As soon as the event started, we saw a decent slow sell off. Wasn't anything like massive or crazy or anything like that, but it was just surprising to see a pretty decent sell off here. You see on this 5-minute candle right here, this big giant candle is right when the event started. We saw it selling off pretty sharply, but it is bouncing back quite nicely. If we go back on the daily chart, it's bounced right off of that 50-day moving average. Fat Man Zoom actually looks like a pretty decent opportunity for Apple here.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Sorry, it just said that Apple had bounced off of the 50-day moving average. Looks like a good opportunity for it.
Yeah, potentially. They're talking about the camera now on the phone. Again, it's better than the last generation, which, I mean, they have done a really good job with their camera and their video. I mean, you can be a creator just with that. You can create content that's as good as if we had one of these cameras. So improvements on that are obviously good, but that's what they're currently talking about. Again, how the processor helps with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking about the iPhone, and they had, when they were talking about the iPad, and they had mentioned their chips and how they were creating them, and it got me to thinking about kind of their breakup with Intel a little bit. I mentioned something about them talking in regards to the chip shortages and that sort of thing. Anything that's stuck out to you as far as their own chips and improvements on any of that?
No, I mean, they didn't give any indication that they're concerned about the supply chain or chips. Apple historically doesn't bring up negative things on events like this.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It's not a investor call. It's a, hey, let's promote this stuff. Let's get people excited.
Right.
But it almost seemed like that was their advantage. It's like they're not going to be slowed down. It almost seems like they're not going to be affected like other companies are from the chip shortage because they do it in-house.
Right.
So that could give them a competitive advantage just to be ahead, just sort of like continue to stay ahead of the competitors.
Yeah. Nina comes in and says, I really hope Apple will go crazy this year. It's interesting. I mean, Apple went crazy last year. It went up 80% last year. And so it's actually had a little bit of a slower movement, but it's still green on the year. It actually still looks pretty good, pretty solid. It's up around 9% right now on the year. So, I mean, it's not like it's blowing anybody's face off, but when we have a year in which we saw 80% returns, we're not going to see that year over year, Nina. So I hear you. Hopefully Apple continues to do well through to the end of the year. And we think it actually will, but I'm not sure we're seeing those 80% returns like we saw last year.
Right now they're actually showing the cinematic feature of their camera. So I guess it's our cinematic mode.
Yeah.
I guess when you're shooting video, it's supposed to look more cinematic, and you have more features to be able in the video to swap out of. It just makes me realize they are doing a really good job offering products that benefit creators and
Yeah.
influencers, which we both believe is a huge opportunity moving forward, where whether it's advertising, marketing, whatever, for creators to be able to use this as a tool and almost as a business resource is going to be huge. So it's clear with the cinematic mode, what they've done with upgrading their cameras, everything, that like they're looking at this as a tool for creators to use moving forward, which I think is really smart.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I mean, I wish I had something as strong as the iPhone 13, or even what I have, the Samsung Note Ultra 21, when I first started creating, because I wouldn't have even thought about getting anything else. I could have just shot straight from my camera and wouldn't even worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, when I travel, I use my phone to
Right.
stream. It's oftentimes better than my computer. So the fact that this phone has such power, and I'm looking at the footage they're using, this cinematic mode actually looks really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to make the stock rise, but I think it's going to be really cool, and people are going to be leveraging this feature. And it's all about keeping people in the ecosystem. I can't stress that enough.
Well, and it speaks to, we mentioned this in the previous stream about, their margins on some of their physical products have been extraordinary, and Apple seems to be able to just continue to increase their prices, and people are still willing to pay the premium, and not just for their physical products, but their services as well.
Yeah. Well, and you think about what people's needs are. I mean, how many calls do you really make a day?
Yeah,
Right? Like we call this a phone.
right.
It's not even a phone anymore.
Yeah.
And even messaging, like I was on a group text in Instagram today, a group message in Instagram. So obviously we still use text, but like anything could offer text. Like text isn't like a big deal, but it's smart for them to think about how they can compete. People are moving away from their computer to check out websites, to visit websites, whatever. So like thinking about that, people are wanting to find a one-stop shop for like their needs. And so thinking about them, what they use it day to day for, I mean, it's really smart that all they're talking about cinematic mode.
Yeah.
They're talking about their camera. They're talking about the speed for gaming. They talked about gaming a lot. And so they're smart. They're like staying with the trend. They're not saying, hey, when you call, the person's voice is crystal clear. They're not talking about the voice. They're not talking about the text, nothing like that.
Right.
So that's what you're going to continue to look for, is like, how are they continuing to integrate the phone in your everyday life, and how can it make your life easier and work with the other products like the wearables and the iWatch.
One thing I will say that
Apple
actually
Watch.
has to do with the phone calls that I actually thought was really interesting was the ability to make emergency calls even if you don't have cell service. So if you're out hiking,
yeah.
you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're able to do that through, I guess, satellite signals. So that was something that I thought was actually really cool on the phone side.
Well, they did it. They talked a little bit about that in the watch last year, where they're just considering more health, and like it monitors your heart rate. If you fall, it can tell if you fell.
Right.
And so they're just thinking about how this is like the best piece of equipment for your life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We got 21 of you guys hanging in here. It's a far cry from what we had before, but that's okay. We're still here for you guys. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, we certainly would appreciate it. We're just giving our reactions. Fatman Zoom's listening in on the event, and we're just going to give our reaction to some of the stuff that they are communicating with us, and we're just going to relay it back to you, kind of give our thoughts on it. Right now, the stock itself has remained pretty flat. It actually has moved back up over 158, so it is starting to get bought up a little bit, I guess, since the iPhone 13 started to move up, or started to come out. But we'll see where it goes. It's starting to look like it may try to go green on the day. We'll see.
I think they just announced the iPhone mini. So they're talking about battery life and comparing 13 to the 12.
Okay. Which you actually like the mini, right?
No, I like the regular one. So like
Okay.
I have the Pro, and I think there's one bigger than the Pro, like Pro Max or something. The minis, I would prefer the mini to the bigger one.
Yeah.
But like, I think the way they did it last time was, I don't know how much bigger it was. I think it was just more like, actually, I don't remember. But I think, yeah, the mini's nice, but like I still, again, like doing it for live streams and stuff.
Yeah.
I like the normal size version.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff Ponika. Appreciate you. Yeah. So if you guys are just tuning in, we were live watching and having the Apple event live, and we were giving it through our channel here. YouTube did not like that, so we got kicked off, and so now we're just giving you our live reactions as Fat Man Zoom is tuning in, watching it himself, relaying some of the info there. We saw some interesting notes from the iPad. That was what the first thing that Apple ended up revealing in the event. Then they moved on to the Apple Watch, which was very interesting. They're actually increasing the size of the watch by 1 millimeter. So from the 40 to the 41, and then from 44 to 45. Then they moved on to now the iPhone 13, which it looks like they're making small, minimal upgrades to it, but nothing too crazy. Seems pretty standard for Apple across the board.
Yeah, so they're wrapping up right now. Just giving you a snapshot. All the phones have dark mode, cinematic mode. I think cinematic mode's going to be my biggest takeaway from this and what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Longer battery life, faster processor, all the things you would expect from the next generation of their phone.
Yeah.
Pricing, iPhone mini is $699. iPhone 13 is $799 for this smallest. So it's 128 gigabyte, 256 and 512.
Yeah, I think all of the other phones had 128 gigs of storage, which wasn't the case before.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to take a moment. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. I know. Finally in person.
Like 2.5 weeks
I know.
since we've both been in here. So it's nice.
We left and we were just trading. We come back and we're doing options.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. What the hell's going on?
I know. Yeah, man, I think we're pretty much, it looks like they're wrapping up. Now, if any surprises come, it'll come at the end.
Yeah.
I doubt there will be any, but we're winding down this event.
Right now, looking at the stock price, it really kind of hasn't reacted a whole lot. If you guys were tuning into the first stream, we saw that Apple had really kind of sold off leading up to the event, and then even sold off even stronger, came under some pretty decent sized pressure into the event, and then it started to bounce back a little bit. It's been a little choppy. This is the 5-minute chart that you're looking at. So it hasn't really done a whole lot, but there's definitely enough to be excited about for the future of Apple. I saw a couple of people asking about, is now going to be the good opportunity or good time to buy Apple stock? And it's like, we talk about this all the time, guys. This is something you just own. It's not really anything that we think that you just have to try to time. If you hate savings accounts, just put your savings in the Apple. As far as I'm concerned, you really don't have to worry about it. And the interest on that's obviously going to be much better than a typical savings account or whatever.
All right, Big Tim Cook back on. We'll see what he says, but I think this is the end. I will say I historically like to wait. Some people will wait for the new product, whether it's a phone, the iPad, whatever, to get the last generation and wait for that price to come back. The night mode and the cinematic mode would encourage me to get the newest one. Really? It's enough. Yeah, for me, it's enough. Because we do, like thinking about the shorts we do on YouTube, thinking about social media, having that video function. I mean, everything we're doing is to video. It makes me want to do that. Where if they didn't do that, I would have just gotten the last year's version.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how there's certain things that would make us want to either buy something or not buy something.
Yeah.
Like me as a Samsung guy, I saw that, the Z Fold that came out looks pretty awesome, but it doesn't have the
stylus,
the S Pen. Yeah. And so I can't live without it now. Like, what are you doing? You can't take that from me. So if they had it, I probably would have gone after it, but I'm not
going to. As an aside, they do really good with their presentations.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
And they're like efficient, which I like as well. They don't kind of drag them on, and they start on time.
Take notes, Elon.
I know. The iPhone 13 Pro is what they're showing right now. This is actually a really badass video.
Oh wow, yeah, check that out.
Or if you can hear the music too, they did. Yeah.
So it looks like the camera is actually a little bit more raised up in
And
this one than the.
and there's three. Went back to the dual, or they went to the dual camera, but this one.
They probably have the telephoto lens, like mine has.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you talk to them, and I'm just gonna listen to this for a second.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. So if you guys are just tuning in, we're giving some of our reactions to the Apple event. Couple things to take note of. They talked about some of their advanced chips that they're putting in the iPad, and they talked about some of the advances that they made into the Apple Watch. So the new Apple Watch is going to be a little bit larger, just slightly by 1 millimeter on both the smaller and the larger version, and it's going to be their strongest watch yet, the most durable. They started coming out with they revealed some features on the iPhone 13, some pretty decent upgrades. All of the iPhones, whether you get the mini or you get the Pro, they're all going to have 128, starting out 128 gigs of data of storage. So that's really good. Right now, they're going into some of the features that the new camera will have. So that's going to be big. Fat Manzo mentioned the cinematic mode, which he's really excited about. Right now, the stock isn't really reacting a whole lot. And it's actually starting to move back down even further. It's now down almost 1%. So been interesting to see the reaction here on the stock itself as the event's been going on. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't necessarily think that there's anything that you should be reading into too much, but it's worth noting that it's been reacting to the event, which is certainly interesting. Um, let's see here. Just checking in with you guys. Bodie Beard says you can use a stylus on the Z Fold 3. Yeah, so actually, Bodie, I've been looking into this. You have to get a separate stylus that accommodates. So, like, I can't use the same S Pen that I have, and I don't want that. I want the built-in stylus like I have right now. If I'm sure that Samsung will be coming out with that in years to come, but that's maybe when I'll make the switch. But right now, I'm still happy with my Note. It's incredible for video, all that good stuff. Um, it's great for creators like myself. So just continuing to watch the stock right now. It's been very choppy since the event started, but I think there's a lot of really good key takeaways. Um, I had mentioned in our first stream that one of the analysts from I can't remember the name of the company. One of the analysts was talking about Apple and how they can kind of be related to. I believe it was on Barron's, comparing it to a like a boy band in a sense. Every year they're going to continue to crank out music, and maybe it's every other year or something like that they come out with a major hit. This seems like so far that this is one of those years where it's just going to be, we're going to put out an album and we're not going to blow anybody away with what we got. We're just going to continue improving and continue advancing our products. And that kind of seems like what's going on right now. It seems like it's very typical Apple. And that's just it. They're not going to fix something that's not broken. They're going to continue to go down this road, and they're going to continue to crush it. They're raising their prices on a lot of this stuff, and people are going to pay it no problem. The 120 hertz feature on the iPhone is what they're talking about right now. It's basically how fast a frame can refresh itself. Gives you a good quality on the screen itself, which is really good. And so these are all very technical advances and improvements on their products. It's just one of those things where I don't know if it's necessarily going to directly affect the stock price at this moment. Although I will say that Apple just hit its low of the day. Very interesting to see this kind of sell off today. Jeff Panicka just said Apple, Peloton shares fell 2.2% after Apple's presentation on fitness features. Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that, Jeff, because this happened last year too. I believe it was something that had to do with their watch, the Apple Watch last year in last year's Apple event that caused Peloton to move down. So if Peloton's moving down because of that, that would be an opportunity for me, in my opinion, for Peloton. I mean, it's already had a pretty sharp correction from since they announced their clothing line, and between yesterday and today, it's sold off pretty decently after hitting a near 120 highs. It hit 119. I think that this could be an opportunity, especially if Peloton comes back down around 106. The fact that it's selling off because of Apple, it seems kind of silly. Um, so I think this actually will be a good opportunity for Peloton. But looking at Apple, it's still continuing to fall here and is resting right at that 50-day moving average, which let's zoom in a little bit, see exactly where that's at. I think it's sitting right around 148 and a half, 147 maybe. Can't see it's blocked. But yeah, really, really close. Really close there. So interesting to see how it's sitting here at the low of the day. Be curious to see if this holds that 50-day moving average. It's going to be pretty critical, I think, for Apple, because if it falls below that, it may be pretty tough for the stock, perhaps this week until we start to see it recover. What you got, Fat Man Zoom? Anything?
Yeah, they're just talking about the Apple 13 Pro. Same stuff, just a little bit better. Honestly, it's a kind of a letdown so far.
Yeah.
That promotion, I'm sure it's stuff that will help us. We're just not sure how. Or one of those things is like, it's not obvious, but when we have it, it's like makes our life easier without us realizing.
Yeah.
They're talking about the camera. Nothing that stands out.
Checking in with you guys. Let's go ahead and see what everybody's chatting about. We got 35 of you guys hanging in here. Bodie B, why they keep booting us? It just has a lot to do with copyright. Stuff with YouTube. It is what it is. Buzz Jones commenting on the iPhone 12 Pro says has issues taking pictures in the sunlight. There's glares on any pictures you take if the sun is from 9 o'clock to your 3 o'clock. Interesting. The lens rings are glossy, and any camera out there has flat black anywhere around the lens. Yeah, interesting. I didn't know if I didn't really make that observation.
What's that?
Buzz Jones was saying that taking the camera in near direct sunlight can be kind of challenging sometimes with iPhone.
Yeah. They have macro photo, which if you've ever had pretty much every phone you have their camera, like getting really close.
Yeah.
So they're just talking about challenging shots that you may have. So that's a feature that actually might be really cool to get like really, really close up details on things. But again, like they keep going through this, like creators, not just social media creators, but like artists, gamers. So like, I think those three is like actual artists, creators, influencers, and gamers. It's clear like those are the three lanes they're trying to get down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where the future is, where we have more and more people that are earning livings like you and me on a platform like YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to be the way that things go moving forward. Even if you're not somebody who's big and just blew up, right? And it's a life-changing experience from a financial standpoint, being a creator. I could see, being a creator as a way that everybody just earns a normal living, later on down the road, which will be millions of people.
Yeah.
So I think that this Apple obviously sees this. I think a lot of other technology companies are potentially seeing this as well. Obviously, the pandemic exacerbated that a little bit, and so it's not surprising to see that they're leaning into gaming a little bit more. They're leaning into content creation a little bit more. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the future as well.
Well, and Netflix added a streaming gaming service. You're seeing mobile gaming being more and more of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's easy to see where these things are going. Like you're not just going to be gaming on this homemade computer you have. Like the ability to game on the road is huge.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's going to be a whole nother market is mobile gaming. Well, it is a whole nother market is mobile gaming that's just going to continue to grow at a fast rate.
Mobile gaming and really, and we've experienced this now, just creating on the road,
Yeah.
being able to do it from wherever you're at.
Yeah.
I think is going to be the way of the future. There's just so many things you can do. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Start to sit and think about it.
I mean, I'm definitely getting this one.
Are you?
Yeah, I'll get the iPhone 13 if
Okay.
I think I gotta get the Apple Watch first. But I'm due for a new phone.
Yeah. Apple is continuing to sell off here. Now hit another low of the day at 148.06. Now down close to 1% on the day. So pretty disappointing performance there by Apple on as far as the stock's concerned on the off of the event. What's up, Jeff Chow? Yeah, absolutely, man. Wave the future for sure.
Look at this. I don't know if you can see it, but just it's kind of like a gimbal he's using or whatever for the iPhone. I mean, you don't need a big ass camera anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? Like to use a phone and like have that boom mic and then just have the phone on it.
Yep.
It makes sense.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The camera quality is awesome. The amount of light that it lets in. That's one thing that I did hear them say that the new camera on the iPhone lets in 15% more light than the previous one, which allows for, that's what allows for this cinematic view, allowing a lot of the light in. This is me getting into my nerdy technical self, people, but like the aperture on this lens looks like it's really good. Yeah, good stuff there for sure. It's crazy how it looks like they're shooting an entire movie with a phone. I wonder when that's gonna what's gonna be the first blockbuster that just gets shot with a phone.
I feel like there's been like documentaries and like indie films that have won awards that have just been on a phone, but I feel like it's gonna be like some sort of documentary that they'll entirely do. But like a major blockbuster would be cool.
Yeah,
the whole thing on a phone.
I think the next thing that they'll go after is audio. We're getting so good with cameras right now that the audio side of things kind of sucks. Like the mics on all of these phones are terrible.
Yeah.
So we have to constantly get external mics to get the audio to actually match the video quality. And I think that could be something that maybe they pursue next.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Absolutely, Jeff Chow. Absolutely. It is cool. It's not nerdy. All right, looking at the stock again, it's continuing to come down here. Actually, it looks pretty rough still. Came down and touched 147.90 just a minute ago. It is officially down 1% here, and we're got about 2 minutes to the close. Right now, Apple's just kind of going over some of their
2 minutes to the
2 hours. Sorry, not 2 minutes. 2 hours before the close. I'm so used to doing this as we're getting to the close. Our live streams as we get close to the close. So no, we got 2 hours before we close. Looking at Apple right now, it's still not doing great in response to the event. I'm not sure what investors wanted to see out of it anyway.
Penn's up 0.03%.
I have Penn down point.
Or sorry, not Penn, Tesla.
Oh yeah, Tesla is actually, it was up much higher today. Actually, it went to 755, I think. Yeah, almost 755, 754.47. But not looking too bad now. All right, checking back in with Apple here.
Did you ever watch the video of when Steve Jobs announced the very first iPhone?
No.
Did you ever see that presentation?
Uh-uh.
He did a really cool job. You should watch it. It's awesome. He's like, and I'm here to announce a new camera and a new phone. It was three things. It was a camera. It was a phone. What's the third thing it does? A camera, a phone, something else. And he kept doing it. He kept saying it faster, faster. So people realized like it's all the same thing. It's the iPhone.
Yeah.
And people went nuts. Like it was really crazy. But I just would love to be able to watch one of these events and they're like, we're coming out with for a while, like maybe it was a decade ago, people thought they would do like a set top box, like a legit flat screen TV.
Yeah.
And that was like, it's coming out, never did. But like something like that where you just wouldn't expect them to build.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Like something as innovative as the iPod was.
Yeah.
You're like, what's the next thing that because to me.
Oh, that's what it was. It was the iPad. It was the iPod. It was the camera and it was the phone. He's like, we have a new iPod, we have a new camera, and we have a new phone. We have a new, and he kept doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's all the same product.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
iPhone 13 Pro. Oh shit. What was that? $1,099, $1,399?
$1,099 for the Pro Max.
And then $1,399.
Is that 1 terabyte of data storage?
Yeah.
Holy shit. In a phone? That's wild.
Friday pre-order available for the all iPhone 13s.
Be available next Friday. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I would like Apple hasn't really done much as far as innovation in the last 10 years. Like I'm talking iPod type innovations, just something that like rocks everybody's world.
Well, I don't know if it rocked everybody's world as much as people realize, but the Apple Watch is a game changer for people.
Yeah.
I just don't think people realized it in the beginning, but when you look around and how many people actually wear that thing and how what it does, I mean, that was pretty, I don't know. I don't know if anybody could have predicted how like popular it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
But they've never it's that innovation argument. Are they innovators? I don't know. They make things better.
Yeah.
They're typically never the first. They're usually like just the one that sticks. Like the iPod, they weren't the first. They just did it the best.
Yeah.
And that's what made it stick.
That's true. That's true.
They're talking about the smartwatch again. They really want to get that Apple Fitness.
I know.
Nobody.
I really think that they could innovate in healthcare. And I thought that we were going to see more of that over the last 2 years, because that's what I thought was going to really take Apple to the next level, from like electronic medical records and that sort of thing. Because like I thought they could really shine in that area, and even like with telemedicine and stuff like that. I'm just surprised they didn't lean into that a little bit more. Maybe it's coming, but that was one thing that I hope that I would have saw more of that from them.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially when you think about the Apple Watch and how the smartwatch is like focused on health and like monitoring health and helping you become a healthier human being. The phone's health app, I use the phone's health app all the time. It integrates with MyFitnessPal, all these other things. If you look at healthcare as an opportunity, you already have the tools.
Right.
Imagine going in and like, your information, your medical records integrated with your phone, and you just scan, QR code for your info, and the doctor like scans that information. It makes sense as an obvious integration.
Yeah.
This is over.
Apple event is officially over. Right now, the stock is down 1.5% and continuing to accelerate the selling here. Pretty crazy stuff here. Now, this doesn't necessarily come as too much of a shock. What comes as a little bit of a surprise to me, Fat Man Zoom, is that I was expecting a move up before the sell off, and right now it's just selling off.
Yeah,
like there's no real move up leading into the event like we thought would happen.
Yeah, and I thought, especially like as they waited for iPhone 13, I thought that possibly could be like a little push after it went down. Maybe an opportunity. I mean, it is an opportunity. That's the reality. It's like a terabyte faster. They restructured it so it's going to be cheaper for them to build. And obviously, you talked about raising prices, so like their margins are going to continue to be better.
Yeah,
this is all great stuff for them. And so while it might not be sexy and blew you away and whatever, I don't know what people expect from this. This just shows that they're still king. They're still going to dominate, and you should feel really good as an Apple investor.
I agree. I mean, again, we look at the stock right now, and it's sitting right at the 50-day moving average, just below it right now. If it closes above the 50-day, I think we're going to be in good shape. If it closes below, it may get a little rocky, but nevertheless, I think that we've talked about all of the things in general that are going to lead going into the end of the year. Apple still has a lot to catch up to the rest of the market if it wants to get anywhere close to what the S&P is going to close at this year. So, I think this is a good opportunity. We always talk about this all the time, that Apple is something that you just own, and you don't necessarily have to think about trading it. You look at days like today, really the last week, and look at it as a possible opportunity to just add to what you already own.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Do you think that Apple sometimes is a victim of their own success, as far as like, because they think they can do things better than everybody else, they're not going after companies like to buy them. It's like, we'd rather do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example. Like, they just released speakers, like the in-home speakers.
Yeah.
Sonos. Like, if you got a massive cash pile at Apple, Sonos would be an awesome merger and acquisition. And their branding, I mean, Sonos looks like they were made by Apple anyways.
They do.
But they yet decide that they're going to try to build their own thing. Why wouldn't you just buy Sonos and just take an incredible product already that is already looks like your branding and just take over? But I wonder if it's just them being like, no, we don't want any outsiders doing it. Like, we'll do it ourselves. We'll build it ourselves.
Is it that, or are they afraid of being labeled as a monopoly like they always are?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I don't know.
Because I think that it is. I mean, we just saw this with Epic Games, and the monopoly conversation got brought up again. How many times do we see them go into Congress and have to, basically explain themselves, and that how they're not a monopoly and all this other stuff? And if they continue scooping up smaller companies, does that not then support the argument that they could be viewed as a quote unquote monopoly, even though I would not agree that they are? It just gives that perception still.
Well, I think the thing about Epic Games, and we could actually talk about this because I'm interested in the take of like how Epic Games is a good thing. I've listened to people say it is, and I know you said you potentially thought it was. Before we get into that, to respond to what you said, the thing about Epic Games, though, it wasn't necessarily that it was monopolistic. In a sense, it was. I think it was. It wasn't that they bought anything. It was the fact that they were manipulating what people could do.
Yeah.
Right. So like, they wouldn't allow, price was part of it, like price gouging, but they wouldn't allow you to offer an alternative for third party payment.
Yeah.
And that was the issue, was like them controlling what people did and essentially saying, well, you don't have to be here, which you can make an argument that's monopolistic. But the reality is, like, if they just allowed them to use third party apps, I don't think it would be as big of an issue. It's like just being greedy. Like, you have to use us to get the commissions.
Isn't that just good business though?
Well, but that's where it falls under monopolistic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is it good business? It depends on how you look at it. I mean, for the short term. For the short term, it's good because you're maximizing your dollar. But the reality is you're opening yourself up for other people to come in or like really ruin your relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you make a ton of money and you're gonna, good example is look at what Facebook's doing. And it's weird me using this as an example because one, they also fall under like the monopolistic issue.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think they're like the most righteous company. However, what they do on the surface is, we talked about how they're supporting small businesses, where they just announced they were paying like $100 million of unpaid invoices for small business owners in underserved populations. And so they're doing things like that. Facebook is, where Apple's not. So it's like, you're you're doing it to the little guy.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks. Is like Epic Games is the little guy. App developers are the little guy. And you're doing it to them. And I think that's the issue. And when you should be building loyalty, and you could continue to cultivate it, and hopefully they'll offer other services. So instead of preventing them from doing it, why don't you incentivize them for doing other things, right? Could you do, hey, if you're a part of our developer program and you solely you exclusively use us, if you promote other products that we have, we'll give you do an affiliate program, right?
Yeah.
Like looking at it in that way, now you're looking at those people as your partners. And then you could say, hey, it's only available to our exclusive partner program, which means you can't have third party. That's an option.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like there's a fine line between good business and greed, and I think they're towing it. I'm not saying they're being greedy, because obviously we don't know all the background to it, but it feels like it. And you and I know business. Like, this is the irony of all of it, bro. They're taking 30% off the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're taking 30% off the top. Their services, I just mentioned at the beginning, only cost them 40%.
Right.
So this is like, it's screwed up, because they wouldn't, if they had one of their suppliers charge them 30% for their services, their margin would go drastically down and their stock would tank. And that's kind of where it's a little messed up. Is like 30% is a lot, and they're only doing it because they can. And it's making it that much harder for those developers, when it's like Google Play has an opportunity because of that. If they wanted to, who's going to support the developers and the little guy, and who's going to do that? Facebook is really trying to do that. I think Shopify is trying to do that, but it's open. And that's where you worry, okay, is Apple going to be king forever? And this is what happens when companies get so big. I'm not saying that Apple's going to die or going to fall back, but I'm saying this is the mindset that leads you, because you're like, we're number one, we're going to stay number one, we can do whatever we want. Well, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. I mean, and we have seen that a little bit. You could use Netflix as an example.
Yeah.
That had that mentality for a long time. And now it's like Disney rolls in and it's like, oh shit. And then you have HBO Max that rolls in and it's like, oh shit again. And so you do have that mentality. So you bring up a really great point. I don't know if obviously anybody can really answer that question until it actually happens, but they do definitely need to watch themselves as far as that's concerned. And if there was a company that I thought that looked out for the little guy the most, as far as the FANG stocks are concerned, I would look at Facebook as probably being the one that does the best job at that.
Yeah, I would agree. And speaking of, we got to talk about Amazon at some point, but let's get to the Epic Games. So, the question at hand is the Epic Games ruling a win for just Epic Games, or is it actually a positive for Apple, which is what you stated? So if you want to set up what happened with Epic Games, and then talk about what your sentiments are towards it, because I'm interested to hear your perspective on that.
So the ruling on the Epic Games, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, the ruling on the Epic Games was that essentially Apple wasn't being viewed as a monopoly from the judge. And that's really what it came down to. And
Apple wasn't?
Apple was not.
So the Epic Game ruling was that Apple, I'm speaking more in terms of like Apple can't prevent these apps from using third-party providers.
Right.
Okay.
So I thought that was actually a positive for Apple, because this isn't just an Epic Games issue. It's an issue for all other services that want to sell their products or whatever in their store,
the App Store.
So this doesn't shut out a big giant amount of people, or businesses. You could look at it as a negative, because Apple's not going to see that kind of margin that they thought they were going to see. But I think it's more of a positive for some of the reasons that you brought up, was because of, now you're not isolating essentially anybody who just doesn't want to be on the App Store.
Yeah. So I don't think the issue here is nobody has, the app developers have nowhere to go. So if you, what's going to give, I think this is a short-term, long-term question, because I wish I remember who it was, but somebody came out initially, it was like, why is this, it looks like a loss for Apple, but why is this a win? And their argument was, this is going to force them to shift their model. And you can make that argument. I think it's a little bit of a reach. However, the reality is it does hurt them short term. Like we just talked about those margins. Well, the margins, they can keep 30%, but what's going to happen is, are all of these app developers going to use these third parties who are going to give them far better deals? And then what happens to Apple? Do they budge or do they not? And if they budge, there goes that service revenue, because I don't care about Apple News. I don't care about Apple TV. I don't care about Apple Fitness. The reality is that money's coming from that app store.
Yeah.
And it's actually the best place to focus on, because you have other people working for you,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to put any energy. You're just creating the marketplace, and you just ask people to come to the marketplace. So that's where it's going to be really interesting. It may force them to, so from a short-term perspective, I think it's pretty clear that it will hurt their balance sheet. But from a long-term perspective, I do see that, again, if they're humble about it, I do see that them saying, okay, well, let's try to work with these people, and hopefully that actually helps with the relations, and potentially, I don't know if it gets new developers in. That's where I'm struggling with. I don't know if it gets new developers in, because you almost have to be on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's not like somebody's like, oh, now I can do third-party apps, I'm going to go to the iPhone. Like I know there are apps that are not on the App Store, but typically you start with the iPhone. I don't know what the percentage is, but I got to imagine it's over 50%. Apps that come out, they start on iPhone, or they have iPhone from the jump. And so I don't know how many are doing that. I would think somebody like Google Play, that would maybe benefit them a little bit more, because they could essentially incentivize people to steal them away from App Store. But you got to kind of be on both if you really want to be a huge app.
You have no choice other than to just be in both.
Yeah.
I don't think you can win if you're just in one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can't win in Google Play. Apple's just too much of a monster.
Right.
Now, that's where I'm like, it just feels like Google, if they wanted to, they could take over, but it also feels like Google's going more towards, it feels like Apple and Google are going in different directions.
Yeah.
Where Google is more going towards the cloud services, and Apple is more staying insulated and creating more services for their people that are homegrown. And where Google, I could see them doing, like, I think Google's going to try to compete with like AWS and Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, they're that, and they're leaning into advertising a lot. Way more.
Yeah, so like Facebook, like the social platforms.
Yeah.
So if Google wanted to, they could do that. But it's to the point we talk about, which is like the money's in digital, like the money's in the cloud, the money's in digital advertising, social, all that stuff. So Google has an opportunity. I think Amazon unseats Apple as far as like largest market cap. I just think that's going to happen.
Yes.
I think Google has also a chance to do that. I think that one of those two companies will be the one to unseat Apple, and it's how they take their next steps. But I do think that could happen fairly quickly, especially if Amazon would freaking do a stock split already.
I know.
Google should do one too.
Something.
I know. Speaking of Amazon, man, I don't know if you saw, but Andy Jassy recently had a conversation, did an interview, and I brushed through it because it was right before this. But basically, he said they're in the early innings of their media, and I'll tell you what, man. I know you talked about Disney. I know we talk about Disney. I know we talk about other streaming services. I don't think Apple TV really has a chance to get legs. I think it's a nice little extra icing on the cake. I think Amazon can do it. I think they can dominate the streaming space, especially, he says this, we just talked about the rumors around they're in the competition for the NFL Sunday Ticket. They have Thursday Night Football. I think they're doing it right. I think they're doing it right where they can be top one or top two. but definitely third.
Definitely, yeah,
I feel
third.
confident they'll definitely be third, but they could beat out Netflix just because they have so much money.
Yes, I think so. I also think though that Netflix is just so good at what they do that it's going to be really hard to. It's from a quality standpoint and the way that their algorithms are made to really just drive you to stuff that you know that you love. I still haven't really quite got that vibe as far as like when I go to my Prime Video and being suggested stuff that I know that I'm gonna
Yeah.
like.
And
Uh,
their interface, I don't think, is anywhere near Netflix's.
no, and so that's my only hesitation. You mentioned the money side of things. Money fixes all problems,
Yeah.
and I think that they could definitely do that. But I'm not sure that we could be. I'm not sure we could necessarily be comparing apples to apples because I would venture to say that while Prime does have really good original content, this thing with the NFL, I don't think it stops here. And I'd mentioned
Yeah. Live.
the live
Yeah.
the live side of it. I'd mentioned with Twitch and how that they can integrate that with the
Yeah.
Thursday night football and how that ball can continue to roll. So I think that they can live together as streaming services, just doing different things.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, clearly that's what YouTube TV is trying to do.
Yeah,
And they're not successful at it yet.
right.
But that's fair. I'm just wondering what's proprietary about Netflix. Because here is the issue with Netflix that nobody really talks about. There is so much content, and yeah, it might do a good job of finding out what you want. What we realized quickly over the pandemic is like, we're running out of shows.
Yeah.
How can you have a million, titles and I can't find a show I like? And there's things that if I logged into your Netflix account would show up and be like, wow, where's that? So that's the one thing is like, I feel like maybe even the algorithm could help it. It could hurt it to some sorts because user interface, that's an easy resolution. Amazon can find somebody to do a user interface. I just don't know it's proprietary. And as far as recommendations, they should be able to be better than Netflix because you think about the Amazon marketplace and it's really good at recommending products. So you would figure they could do that. So, but I love what you're saying about the live because I think that's a huge opportunity area that gets people. And then once they're in, they can watch your content. And so I think starting there and then getting them for the content is all you need. And the thing that they have, the reason why I'm saying this is because they have a unique advantage against Netflix. How does Netflix get its people? Like you got to hope word of mouth. Somebody mentions a show that people get excited about.
Yeah.
Like advertising. I don't know. Usually it's you borrow somebody's login, you like it and you buy it. That's usually what happens.
One of the big things that they've been able to do though is give it away for new phone subscribers. That's kind of, I think, probably been the biggest driver of.
Netflix does?
Netflix has done that. Yeah, Verizon.
Okay.
Yeah. They have I don't think they do it right here, right now, but they have in the past. Like,
I wonder if
like a free year or whatever.
Okay, I wonder if that was a partnership because now Verizon does Disney.
Verizon does Disney,
Hulu, ESPN. You get with.
Right now, I think it's T-Mobile for Netflix.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so there's an avenue. I didn't know that. So when you think about Amazon, Amazon has obviously the Amazon Marketplace, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's Prime, right? So like you have that entryway on ramp. You have Whole Foods, which you can't discount that,
no.
Right? How many times do you sign up for stuff just at the grocery store? And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know if you I got to imagine you see the discounts in Whole Foods. We got one right next to us.
I love Whole Foods. I don't even live near Whole Foods. I'm down here because I'm here in the studio.
When we have a Whole Foods a block from the studio.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that whenever I'm down here, I always think about, okay, what do I need from Whole Foods?
Yeah.
I don't want to get it from anywhere else.
But their their Prime deals are really good.
Yeah.
So you have that on ramp of people who are coming in for the grocery discount, and that's only growing.
Yeah.
And how many of them are they going to convert? So all it's a question of, so you have that. And then if you get sports and those loyalists, you've got 3-4 on ramps. And then the question is, how do we convert them? The football's already converted, but then how do we convert the online shoppers?
Yeah.
How do we convert the Whole Foods people? And
oops.
And man down. No, that wasn't it. Hand down, man down. But that's where I'm like, I can see them coming because even Disney doesn't have that advantage. They have a unique advantage that if they can capitalize on the live, then everything else should be easy.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not even that expensive, FYI.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that that's going to be something that who knows where Amazon goes from here. You know, with Andrew Jassy saying they're just getting started with it, just they really are. You look at something like Amazon that's nearly it is a $2 trillion company, and you just think to yourself, how much bigger can they get?
Yeah.
And it's just a lot bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is that's why I'm saying they should be the most valuable company in the world, and I think they will be.
Jubei says, I hope Amazon buys Fubo TV. We talked about this. Did we mention Amazon being a potential buyer of Fubo?
I thought we did, but it makes a lot of sense.
That would be big too. That would be a big deal.
And imagine the revenue from the sports betting side of things.
Yeah.
That, and that's where you got to balance. But obviously there's some innate challenges with acquisitions, but like the market wants to see you spend money. And that's kind of been the knock on Apple is, it's nice to have a dividend, but like if you're a growth company, analysts actually don't love dividends because they're like, whoa, you mean you're not trying to grow?
Right. Why aren't you putting that money to better use?
Yeah. Why aren't you putting your money to work? You're just giving it away. Where logically we would think, oh, you're giving money back. That's good. But the thing with their dividend is even if they're raising their dividend, they're still not raising it enough to slow down the cash coming in. They can't stop with this cash pile that keeps growing with Apple.
Right.
And so that's the thing is like the market wants to see you use your money. However, the opposite to that is a Microsoft that has just really not been great in their M&A. Their acquisitions, they haven't done a very good job. But if you can do it right, you can create really good opportunities. And you look at company comes to mind is really Salesforce. CRM's done a great job with their acquisitions, their investments, and what they're putting it into.
Yeah, you think about all the cash that Apple has, and they could buy up so much.
Yeah.
They just don't.
I know.
Like, what are they doing with it?
Nothing.
Yeah. Just to have it, I guess.
Yeah. But regardless, I mean, Apple's going to be great. It doesn't change our sentiments about Apple in general. But man, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
All right. So Apple we're giving you guys our live reaction to the Apple event. Some of the stuff that they had covered. We had a little bit of some technical issues previously, but we've been live on this particular stream for an hour. So we appreciate you guys hanging around and listening to us kind of go off the cuff a little bit. Sometimes doing streams like this is just needed and warranted. But right now, looking at Apple, the stock is down 1.25%. It's up a little bit from its bottom. We go to the 5-minute chart, just kind of look at what's been going on intraday, and we're starting to see it bounce a little bit. Got as low as 146.91. I had mentioned that if this closes above the 50-day moving average today, then I think the Apple's going to be just fine. If it closes below, we could start to see this get a little rocky. So far, it's starting to make its way back towards that 50-day moving average at around 148. So we'll see what it closes at today. We got a little over an hour left in the market. So let's see where it goes. Right now, it's starting to move up. It may continue to do that leading into the end of the session today.
Yeah, I mean, Apple is perfect for the wheel strategy.
Yeah, it is.
That I don't know if this will be maybe a more formal video later. But in my main trading account, my larger account, Apple is going to be my wheel strategy. So my hope is, and I kind of broke this down to you, is if I can do the wheel strategy for Apple and use the premiums to buy shares of Apple. So every time I do a weekly call, I buy a share of Apple. Sell a put. I buy a share of Apple, and then obviously in the wheel strategy, the second half of it, potentially for selling calls, again, doing the same thing, getting to a point, obviously not every week you're going to be able to get a share, but when I ran the theoreticals on the strategy, if the stock doesn't move, you can see like a 30% move.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there's like people out there that are like 150, 100%, but that's if the stock doesn't move. And so the wheel strategy just seems like a huge opportunity, especially for a company like Apple, and then potentially integrating leaps into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the channel before about the wheel strategy being a good strategy for stock that you wouldn't mind owning shares of. So I think that Apple obviously is going to be a really clear cut one for sure. You look at a couple other ones that you might actually be down on. I was considering doing a little bit more of this with like Penn National.
Yep.
I am currently doing that with Spirit Air Systems because I want to own shares of Spirit Air Systems. So I actually sold puts for that that will expire in October. I
What
like
time frame for puts are using? Like how
uh,
far out?
2 weeks.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's something that I think could be something to look at. But the wheel strategy we're going to get into a little bit more. I think as we get more familiar with it, we'll be able to explain it a little bit better. But yeah, those are going to be good ones to implement that with.
Yeah, and from the leap perspective, you can actually. I was talking to Don Frown about this. You can actually have that as the first part of your strategy is using a leap for over a year out.
Yeah.
With as close of a 1-to-1 delta as you can get, or one delta, um, and then sell the calls. And the benefit there is, I know some people are like, well, for selling puts, which is the first half of the strategy. And guys, don't get caught up if you don't understand this. Like, we'll go over this specifically, and we'll create videos to help you guys on this. But the first half of that strategy, the issue is you need if you get assigned those shares. I mean, Apple's what, let's say 150. You're talking about $15,000 you need to come up with. Not everybody has $15,000 in their
Right.
portfolio to be able to deal with that. So leaps allow you to get the same sort of benefit. However, leverage far less capital. That's the benefit, is like you're leveraging far less capital, and then you could sell calls. The second part of the wheel strategy, like we talked about. So it's really interesting, but I'm quickly seeing like it's the patience. Like, can you be patient? Can you get, it's a 1% advance, right? Like it's a 1% profit. Like that's not a lot. It doesn't feel like a lot when you're just talking about one position. But if you can use the power of compounding, which we talk about all the time, incremental compounding growth, you buy that one share, you keep buying that one share, you allow that to grow with you, and all you're doing is hitting base hits, base hits, base hits.
Yep. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to keep going down that road with it.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could do it with something like Tesla. Like,
I know.
Tesla should have potentially been a leap for me. But I'm telling you, man, Tesla and Apple in 2022, they're either gonna make me or break me.
I think the latter, or the former, is probably gonna be the case. How you feeling?
I feel good. Are we not getting any comments?
No.
We should ask a question. You want to do Apple predictions?
For what?
All right. I want to know. So here's the thing. We talk about giving things time for investors to digest. Maybe analysts come out. Some people just wait to hear what the analysts do. My first question to you would really be, what do you think the sentiment for analysts is going to be? Are they going to be upgrading their stock? Are they not? And then where does Amazon, so we're now Tuesday, where does Amazon close the week out price?
I think that we could potentially see some upgrades from Apple. It seems to be historically we get that after events like this. So we could probably see something out of them for that. And as far as Amazon's concerned, I'm a little hesitant to give my predictions on Amazon. Last
What about
year,
Amazon? What prediction for Amazon?
Oh,
I meant Apple. Sorry. Apple the end of the week.
Oh, Apple end of the week. Okay. Apple end of the week. We look at the chart here. Let's take a look. Right now, it's still struggling to really kind of stay up here. We'll see where it goes by the end of the day. By the end of the week, if we see some decent upgrades, I could see Apple approaching back over 150. So I'm going to say 152 by the end of the week.
Okay. And what about you guys in YouTube land? Is it over? Just take the over under. We do this. I do this sometimes with Brad on Stock Watch Sunday. 150 Friday at close. Over or under? Throw it in the chat.
Always Sared says no innovation on the show from Apple again. Disappointing. I think sales will be short of expectations on all new models shown. Changes minimal and incremental.
No, I'm sorry.
Fat Man Zoom says no. And we touched on the innovation side of things, but people, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
I think from a sales perspective, there's so many people that just want to spend money that it doesn't matter how incremental the improvements are on the iPhone 13 or whatever, whether you agree with that or not. Um, they're gonna churn out sales like crazy.
What have they innovated on their iPhone? I mean, really, like they had a really good camera. The reality is, if you remember when that camera, that 3 camera, whatever they call it, tri-camera came out, people were actually shitting on that.
Yep.
Oh, you got a little bit of a better camera. Well, the reality was that actually was a really awesome upgrade for them. We know Apple isn't trying to be exciting. They're not trying to blow it out. They're just trying to say, hey, we still have the best damn phone, period. And they said that the fastest phone out there, the most durable phone. And so as far as that's concerned, and obviously they're working on battery life. So I don't know if it's the longest lasting. I don't think that's the case for it, but you don't need innovate what? Like I think it's fair to say we didn't expect anything innovative from it.
I was not expecting anything.
We just needed it to be announced and we need it to be released. And then I think there's still residual from the iPhone upcycle. I think there's still a lot of room available for that. And I think that's what we're going to start hearing from analysts is the upcycle. But Apple isn't trying to like be crazy or do anything wild. It's like, we're number one. Let's just make it a little bit better. So I think expectations need to be managed going in, because last year wasn't it their best selling iPhone year?
Yeah.
Or their iPhone, like that's been their best selling phone. What did they innovate last phone?
It looks just like the iPhone 6.
It's the exact same. It's more space, a little bit faster and longer battery life. That's the formula.
It looks just like the 6. So that hasn't changed.
And it's like, but if you're Apple, it's like, okay, we could try to change. Here's how I imagine their meetings are going. We could try to change, but we're changing for change's sake.
Yeah.
If you're number 2, we can take chances and we can try to do things. But if you're number 1 and you keep growing, why would you change for change's sake? So what is happening is, because you don't want to be stagnant as a business, they're saying, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's services. That's wearables. That's the car. So I like that strategy, because it's like, let's just keep making it incrementally better and let's ride this thing as much out as we can till the next thing comes, and the next thing is a revenue driver for us. So I want to be clear, they're not being stagnant. It's they're focusing in a different way. Why would I want to, when the iPhone mini came out, that was kind of like a bold thing for them to be like, let's do a small phone. It didn't really resonate with people.
Yeah.
Like the sales weren't there. What if they're like, why don't we create, like, remember those T-Mobile like switch phones where like the screen flipped up?
Oh,
or like people are talking about fold phones. Why would you do that if you're number 1? That's kind of my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many more phones are you going to sell? Or you're like, hey, this is still working. This is still the best thing out there. All right, let's start working on a watch let's get a watch on your wrist now. Let's get you into a car. And I think that's where they're doing their investment and they're putting their money. And here's what you can't discount. And I'm going to put Darren's comment here. My mom has the same Apple phone from 8 years ago. That's the other thing that Apple just does a really good job of. Their stuff lasts.
Yeah.
I mean, their computers last, their iPads. My iPad, I got a new iPad last year. I gave Mini Zoom my old iPad that she uses. Still going. That thing's like 12 years old. You talk about return on investment. They build things that last. And that's one of those things. I'm getting a new phone, not because I need a new phone, right? Like this thing will continue to last, but I just want a new phone.
Yeah.
It's like faster. It's like, I want the nicer camera. But don't sleep on cinematic mode. I think this is going to be really big for them. And like you said, if creators start using it and like you get big names behind it, that could be big for them.
Yeah. I still love my camera though. Old Samsung.
You should do a video on
people poo-poo on it, but the Apple people poo-poo on it.
I mean, how long have you used an iPhone? Like, what's the longest period of time you've actually used an iPhone? Whether it's like using it, like grabbing somebody's iPhone, taking pictures or videos or
I had
calling or whatever.
I had iPods for a while.
iPods?
Yeah, and but no, I've
So you've never used the iPhone for real?
I've fumbled around with it, but
Okay. Because I've used, I mean, I actually used to be a Google guy.
Yeah.
People might not know this about me, but and this was just when cost mattered. So I was like, I can't afford an iPhone. But so very early on,
this is more expensive than the iPhone.
so I have no issue with it. Well, back then it wasn't.
Yeah,
Like the Google phone, it was the Android I got. It wasn't a Google phone. But the thing about this is, like, when I use those, it's, I don't know, man. It's not. I get it. The
that is
camera's
the
strong.
cult mentality of Apple users.
But I wouldn't say that, because of what I'm saying is I used to actually be it. It's not like I'm like, I've never tried it. I've used it, and the thing is just the little things, like their attention to detail and the intuitive nature.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, I wish there was a way we could like temporarily swap like our numbers, and I could use that phone for a month and you could use this phone for a month.
Yeah.
Because the learning curve, like, it's steep. Like when you first get an iPhone, especially the same thing with a Mac, it's like, it takes a while, but then once you get it, you realize like why they do things and how they're really thinking about every little detail that makes your life so much easier. So I get it why people get Androids. I'm not saying Androids aren't bad, but when I've used it, like my mom's, I've used it a fair amount. It's just not as intuitive as the iPhone, and that's what I mean. They've always focused on that.
It depends on personal preference. There's like
So you just said you haven't. That's what I'm saying is I've done both. You told me about an iPod.
I've no.
How long are iPods out?
That was the last one I actually had in my possession. Last Apple product I had in my possession was
Okay. Yeah.
but I've used other people's iPhones because like there's a lot of friends that I have iPhones. But I will say that you look at something like some of the big YouTube creators, Unbox Therapy. I can't remember his name to save myself. He obviously reviews all of the products, Apple or Android, prefers Android. Marquez Brownlee does the same thing, gives honest reviews on all things across the board, prefers Apple for some reason. I just think that like you look at some of the expert guys and even they're all split. So it's just weird how everybody falls in one category or the other.
Well, you're saying they're all split. I don't know if that's safe to say they're all split. I mean, by statistics, I would doubt.
I'm not saying down the middle. I'm just saying like they have their preferences. There is some sort of split, 60-40, whatever.
Because your automatic knee jerk was cult, but what I would say is there's an anti-cult that wouldn't even give it a shot, and I think you fall under there. I would give an Android phone a shot for sure. The reason for like
I would give it a shot. I just don't know anybody who'd be willing to just give me an iPhone for a week.
You could get the SE $400 and you could do you could probably resell it for the same amount. You know, if you held it for a month or whatever.
Yeah.
But a good point here. I didn't know this, but is it true that is that a Mac stand? Is that an Apple stand or no?
No.
Oh, okay. It looks like it.
It's not.
Scott Sherwood said, time to talk Brad and switch to Mac. He's got the MacBook stand already right there.
It's not a MacBook.
What brand is that?
It's like, I don't know, water or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's from something from B&H. It's not Apple.
I mean, I will say that that I won't necessarily say that MacBooks are better for certain things, but I think that PCs are like better for a lot of things. Like I'm not one of those people that are ride or die for MacBook.
Yeah.
I use it, but like I think there's a closer race between computers than there is for phones.
Yeah.
Like your computer for certain things is just far better than mine.
Yeah.
So, but again, they don't really care about, I mean, computers are nice for Apple, but again, we talked about at the beginning, it's 25% margin. Well, they have who they have.
You look at gamers, you're not going to catch a gamer on a Mac.
No.
Period.
No.
So,
but designers, they tend to lean towards Mac.
Right.
And editors tend to lean towards that.
Yeah.
So, he's saying it's not Apple branded, but it's designed for them, exact color match. Yeah, I would imagine they probably did that. So
no, that's a lie. I have 2 HP laptops and they match that color exactly.
Okay.
I'm just
You
saying-
don't think that HP tried to mimic Mac? You don't think that
I don't know.
this is, come on, think about this.
Mac has white computers too.
This has been their thing, their trademark, their calling card.
Oh, okay.
And so when was the last time you saw a laptop that was white for Apple? Laptop.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like that. This is their colors, white and gray. That's it.
I know, but clearly those companies did this to try to basically just hijack the Apple look.
By the way, this is an Apple product too. Just
Is that an Apple product? Or are you saying
No,
because it's gray?
I'm being facetious.
It's a different color.
I'm just saying they're all.
What do you guys think? Is it me being culty, or is Brad just anti-culty and he's just totally against it? HP? Does HP even still exist?
I'm not saying that HP is a superior product. I'm just saying it's the same color.
But you're pulling out HP? HP was a desperate company.
I'm not pulling it out. I'm just saying.
Compaq had a silver laptop. You remember Compaq?
HP crushed earnings last quarter, by the way.
Are you buying HP?
No. I like my Asus.
Well,
Asus.
No, I mean, are you buying the stock?
Oh, no.
When the bar sets so low, it's easy to jump over that bar. Jonathan White, what do you guys? Team Apple? I bet we have more Team Android than the average channel, but I want to know Team Apple or Team Android?
I don't think so. I think we have a lot of Apple people in here.
Well, by statistics, we're going to have a lot, but I feel like we're probably going to have a surprising amount. We'll see.
Like somebody in the chat was super excited that the iPad's going to come out blue. It's like, really? Because like that's a big thing. People get excited. Like that's the cult like stuff. It's like, oh my God, we got a blue iPad. Like, okay, I've had multicolored products for a long time.
Yeah. Is it because
It's because I'm not in the fucking chat.
I was just gonna say, is it because you can't get in the chat because you're a green bubble?
Nobody talks to me because I'm excluded. I'm being discriminated against.
I prefer. We got one Android.
Android racism.
We got one Android.
Yep. See, I knew there was gonna be a lot of apples. That's not surprising to me at all.
I understand that. I would be offended too if it was like you can't get in a group. So it's like, no, why am I just going to get in because I have? It's like the in crowd. Like, oh, so I can't get in a group chat. I'm not just talking about man. I'm saying in general, the way they set it up.
Yeah,
they did that on purpose, which is genius.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, fine. I don't want to be in your group. Oh yeah, maybe I was wrong. I mean, nobody's one. We got one Android.
We got one Android. I told you.
Dubai. It even sounds like an Android person. Dubai. Oh, you're probably the one that liked Casio watches, aren't you? There will be a day we'll get you on an iPhone.
It's not going to happen.
See, that's why I think you're more anti, because I see there could be a day that I go to Android,
but
I'm open to that.
I'm not saying so. The only reason I said that is because you said that it's going to happen.
No, you would out of spite. If you're telling me that
you're adamant that I'm going to convert, and then I'm just going to, because you're adamant that I'm going to convert, I'm just going to be like, nope.
Wait, no.
You're like, one day you will own an Apple iPhone.
Oh no, I don't know why I said that. That's not true.
Yeah,
you should one day.
I will give it a shot. Like I said, I just need somebody that's getting rid of one or has one laying around, and I'll mess around with it.
Nah, that's not enough.
Okay,
that's not enough.
Well, I mean, I love if Apple had so.
Is 1 week enough for somebody to really get? Jonathan is because I feel like there's going to be some sort of learning curve. Like it's going to be annoying at first. Yeah. You need a certain amount of time where it's like, okay, I've definitely committed to it. I've gotten comfortable with it. Because there's also these crazy features. Every time a new update comes out, you can like Google it. There's all these little features that you don't even know exist.
So here's the thing that like just turns me off, I guess, a little bit on top of some of the other stuff we talked about. But like Apple makes it a big deal that all of their iPhones now have 128 gigs of data of storage. This became standard with 512. Well, and like there's just features that I have on this phone that I know I'm not going to get on that, and I have to wait for forever. And then there are cult like people that are Apple that are going to get their minds blown when Apple comes out with something that like I've had for years. like thumbprints.
Yeah. Well,
stuff
what
like
you
that.
got to remember is Apple is comparing themselves to themselves,
Right.
not to, and they could care less, or they couldn't care less. So I think that's where they're coming from is like, I don't think it's been known forever that Androids had a better camera, right?
Yeah.
Like that was like a thing, like Androids, that was their angle. They were going to offer, like, they weren't going to try to compete and win maybe the like software space. They were going to do like the cameras better.
Yeah.
And maybe the battery life is longer.
Actually, the battery life on Apple is better.
Is better now?
Yeah.
But it used to be that Android's battery life, that was like the thing. It was the camera and the battery. And so I would agree with you, but hey, you're kind of catching yourself because you came over my shoulder at 1 terabyte. Like you were more excited.
I thought that was impressive.
was.
I thought that was impressive. But how much are you going to have to pay for that 1 terabyte is what I'm saying. Like this came standard. I didn't have to pay any extra to get 512.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're closing the gap because I feel like, because they dropped 64, right? Like 128 is the minimum. I'm sure they're going to update that. I think the pros, like, I thought it was 256 maybe. But, I mean, at some point it's like, you're good. Like,
yeah,
at some point it just doesn't matter anymore. Like 64, I can't imagine, it's 64 gigabytes, right? 64 gigabytes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a phone with 64 gigabytes. That ain't going to last.
Yeah.
But again, we talked about, it's clear that their features are for creators, influencers, gamers. They realize that they're going to have to ramp up that space. And so that's one thing I'm glad you pointed out was the terabyte, because that's like big. That's I mean, like big for them. That's big news for their phone.
I'm surprised that like that wasn't focused on a little bit more.
Yeah.
I have a terabyte of storage in this big ass computer.
Do you think is the camera still better on Android, or are they closer?
I think it's perception, but I would say that Android is slightly better because it allows a lot more light. You can take better pictures in low light.
What about video?
I don't know. I'd have to take a closer look on video,
Okay.
but I know that the slow-mo and the super slow-mo is way better on this camera than on the
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Brad, pre-order the iPhone through your carrier and they give you 30 days to return. I mean, we should do a video where we switch. We just buy the phones. It's a cost to the channel where we buy the phones and we do 30 days with each phone.
Yeah.
And use it and see how it goes. And then you get 30 days with the man meal chat.
I'd be like, see you guys.
And I'm going to be 30 days going through withdrawal, not being able to get on the man meal chat. I'll be like, what's everybody talking about? Where's man meal this week? Joe Rogan.
I feel like I definitely don't get invited to things that the man meal crew goes to outside of the man meal because I'm not in the chat.
I don't think that's true. Maybe
I had no idea that half the man meal was going to Vegas until they were already in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could have gone.
How could you have gone?
I would have gone.
Oh, you would have gone.
Yeah. I would have made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Because it kind of just comes up. It's like, who all's going out? I mean, half of Baltimore was honestly in Vegas.
I know.
Not just man meal. Like there were so many Baltimore fans, people from Baltimore there. It was crazy.
I literally heard the O in the national anthem in the stadium.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I get that because you got to rely on me to pass along that message. But usually it's like, late at night where like somebody says something.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe you missed the boat trip. Did you?
I got nothing on a boat trip. What boat trip?
It was a while ago. It was Jared, like they did like a fish. I think it was like offshore fishing thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I missed that one too.
You probably find out if I go. If I don't go, I don't really say anything about anything.
Yes.
Hey, what do you want? Is there anything coming up that you should know about? Oh, we do have one thing. We talked about it today. We might do Man Meal movie night, which is Shang-Chi.
Okay.
So we might do that.
I'm in.
I'll let you know if we do it. Maybe Thursday.
Get with your people. Tell them.
I'll tell you when we decide on when it is. We were trying, but we did talk about Man Meal boat outing, but that wasn't in the group text. That was actually at the last two Man Meals. We brought it up at both. So you weren't there.
No.
So you would have probably gotten mad and thinking that was group chat. That wasn't.
Got it.
So there's no date on that.
Mad Dick says, bet in the game. I saw you, Mad Dick says, I was betting on Lamar Jackson would win. That was a crazy ass game. I don't know. It seemed towards the end that nobody wanted to win that game.
Yeah. I'm excited for Le'Veon Bell. I just feel something about Le'Veon Bell.
I saw him standing on the sidelines. I was like, oh shit, there he is. Latavius Murray didn't do half bad in the appearances that he had, but that new kid, what's his name?
Williams.
Yeah,
Tyson Williams.
Yeah. I thought he did all right for a fifth stringer.
I mean, it's just the story of the Ravens.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, listen, I could gain 1,000 yards with the line of the Ravens.
It sure feels like it. Yeah.
Williams isn't good.
No,
their line is just that damn good, and you have Lamar Jackson that's a threat of the run. Yeah. That's why I'm saying Latavius Murray is good, but Le'Veon Bell, people are sleeping on him. The guy,
I don't think so. Like I picked him up as soon as I saw we signed him, I picked him up.
Yo, that guy, like not just the holes that are going to be created that he can run through. What's bigger is just as a safety valve for Lamar. All those little dink and dunks, it's going to be crazy. Yeah. Like it's going to be insane. I don't see how Le'Veon Bell cannot blow up. It's just how quickly can you learn the system?
Yep.
So he might not blow it out this year, but he could do really well. And if they make it to the playoffs, that's where he could like have a coming out party for sure.
I agree.
And leading into next year, great insurance, where you don't even, J.K. Dobbins comes back, and Gus Edwards, obviously, like, not saying that Le'Veon Bell's a passing down back, but like you could legitimately have like a two-headed monster with them. So I like it. I would imagine that the plan would be you take Le'Veon Bell, hopefully he blows up and you have trade bait. I think that's what they would do is like trade him.
Yeah.
For, whatever. So anyways, we'll see. 2 fumbles by Lamar though. I got to say.
Yeah.
It
was bad.
That's sad.
It was. Makes me nervous about this week.
Yeah. But
Kansas City looked like crap too.
That's what's tough is that they got a really tough game.
Yeah.
And what also stinks is Kansas City was in a similar position, which they could have lost.
They should have lost. But they came back and won. So like they already had a scare. Ravens lost. So it's like Kansas City is going to be ready. Nonetheless, it'll be a good game. Yeah.
What was the final score yesterday?
33-27.
Okay.
I think I said 27-24 Ravens.
You did. Was it the Ravens score you were giving? I thought 27-24 was the Bears game.
No, it was Ravens. I think you asked me about Ravens.
Well, I asked you who. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You said you thought it was closer than people thought.
Yeah.
But what'd you give the Bears score?
I don't remember giving the Bears score. Did I give one? Or did
you said 27-24. I don't think you gave a Ravens score. I think you just said it's going to be closer than people think.
Oh.
I think you said like the Ravens would edge it out. I mean, it was a close game.
Yeah. It was a good game. I watched the Mannings. Did you see the Mannings cover the game?
No.
Oh man. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning had their own show watching.
Oh, really?
On ESPN too.
Oh, nice.
They had Ray Lewis came on, hung out with them like via Zoom. They
were that's awesome.
Just chilling and shooting the shit. Russell Wilson came on. Travis Kelce. They were just popping in and out. It was cool shit. Really cool way to watch the game.
That is cool. That is awesome. I mean, you're going to see more of that. Why not?
Yeah.
And like, what is Pat McAfee doing?
For what?
Is he doing anything like that where he's doing watches?
No, he's just doing his normal thing.
Because like you had like Joe Rogan when he's not commentating, he'll have like live watch parties and his friends will come over. Like if I know he was like trying to get on Monday Night Football, like he could create something just like that. The guests he has on and like that's where everything's going anyway. Like people are going to watch that commentary. And if he has like football friends coming through him, AJ Hawk, whatever, they're going to watch that over like the regular broadcast.
I agree.
That's surprising that Pat McAfee didn't just create his own like watch party.
I know, especially because like when the draft happened, they had more views than everybody.
Really?
Mainstream media, everybody.
Wow.
To watch the draft. So like you would think that they look at that and be like, how can we make this happen again?
Yeah, people are sleeping on that. He has so much pull. I mean, he has Aaron Rodgers weekly on that show.
I know.
That shows the kind of pull he has.
Yeah.
And just that continuing, there's, man,
They got something special, not just with Pat McAfee, but all the boys there.
Yeah.
That whole thing is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to lie. I'm good. If we want to keep rolling, you can.
I'm good too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been good, but I was just shooting the shit. And you guys that have been watching have just been awesome. We've been literally just shooting the shit. And the fact that you guys are just hanging out, watching is awesome. We appreciate you. But yeah, that's going to do it. So,
hold on. Check one thing. I'm sorry. Can you check Crocs? I just wanted to see how it did today. It had its investor day, and I'll see if there's any
yeah, Crocs, which is on the watch list today. It's up 9.8%.
Is it?
Yes, it
wow.
is. Yes, it is. It actually blew right through all-time highs, just as we expected it would. Look at this, man. Look at that chart. That's a thing of beauty. Right through all-time highs. We said that, hey, it gets through these all-time highs, it's going to rocket. And sure enough, it did. Actually went all the way up to 157.80. So it's up nearly 10% right now. But at one point, it was up around almost 20.
Wow. So I'm just looking through Twitter real quick, see if there's anything on there. This is awesome. Man, this company is just a monster.
It's crazy.
They announced a $500 million buyback.
I saw that, yeah.
Increase their growth, increase their outlook, and unveil the new bio-based materials. I don't know exactly what that's about, but they're showing how an event is done.
Yes.
$500 million buyback.
Yeah.
It looks like that's the big thing. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Tomorrow,
Crocs.
Tomorrow is Zoomtopia, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
So tomorrow will be Zoomtopia. We'll be covering some of that. If any of it's worth mentioning, we'll certainly be talking about it. It's gonna be a pretty slow week overall. As far as earnings are concerned, earnings season is officially done and over with, but there's all kinds of stuff still happening. We didn't even get into some of the gaming stocks and stuff like that, some of that drama that happened today. But if it's still carrying on in tomorrow, I'm sure we'll be touching on it. But guys, that's going to do it for us. Again, we appreciate you watching. I'm impressed that some of you guys were just hanging around as we were just talking about nothing.
If we didn't get kicked off,
I know.
I would have had a monster.
We had like over 400 in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, people watching. But hey, is what it is. Sometimes that just happens. We appreciate you guys hanging around regardless. That's going to do it for us, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, 3:30 p.m., our regularly scheduled programming.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.